Well, cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining in with us. I'm glad we got a good cross section of people from our industry, so that's very nice. I'm glad to. Thanks for taking the time to kind of share your thoughts with us, and what if any information that you might have that you could share with the rest of the production kind of community. And so I'll introduce myself. I'm Dave Lee. I'm the owner of Planetary Media, and I represent the small production company. And we can work with. I'll introduce Carrie. Do you want to say hi and what you do? And
I'm Carrie O'Reilly. I'm an independent producer and of features and occasionally commercials, and I'm a DGA and PGA member.
Stacia?
Stacia Fritchie, General Manager at Lion Video. Remotes, broadcasts, live sports, entertainment, you name it. You're doing it live, we're there.
Okay. Kelly?
Kelly Sells, Director of Business Development for Pixel Park, motion design studio here in town.
And then we'll work with Scott.
Yeah, Scott Handel with Ohio HD Video. We are a rental house of cameras, Griffin Electric, and we also have a studio facility that we rent out.
Someone have their watching TV.
Long-time caller, short, long-time listener.
Eric, you want to say hi?
Yeah, Eric Buselich, Field Audio. That's about it. I do a mixed bag of stuff.
And Fred?
Yeah, Fred Herring. I'm a senior account manager at Philips. You guys probably know we do events. We used to do events and video broadcast and corporate video. So. And Barry Zeidman.
Barry Zeidman, producer guy here, owner of Provocateur, and this is the weirdest group of Brady Bunch people I have ever seen in my life.
At least the guys on the bottom could look up and say, hey, look down. Sorry. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, I'm Jeff Barkley's DP.
Chris? Chris, can you hear us? You want to say hi?
Chris Jones, Warhol and Wall Street, creative agency.
Russ?
Yeah, Chris.
Russ, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Russ Faust. I'm a gaffer based out of Cincinnati and an executive board member and delegate for Local 209.
And Marty, you want to say hi to us?
Hello, I'm Marty Nowak. I'm Senior Vice President at Ron Foth Advertising Production Division.
And we have someone on the bottom. I don't know. It says Chris Jones, but who is that?
Oh, hi. This is Tisha Hanley, producer at the Film Forge.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh, so it's my name. I invited Tish. I'm sorry, guys. She's awesome.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
I think just to start off, we all kind of know where the industry's going. I mean, or is now, and we just wanted to get, general thoughts from everybody about what they think is going to happen here. I know there's a lot of questions, a lot of people tuning in. Probably have a lot of questions for all of us, and we've got a good cross section of everybody in the industry. So I would like to start, maybe with the people that are the most affected right now, crew-wise, would be the live event, the staging, and the sporting. So, Stacia, you want to give us an update and your thoughts?
Stacia, right before you get started there, I just want to do a little housekeeping. So if people are watching, there's a couple places to interact with us, like on the webinar chat versus the Q&A system. If you can go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A, it'll queue them up for us, and we can kind of direct those to whoever might be most interested to kind of take care of those. So try to use the Q&A function more than the Zoom webinar chat, if that's cool. And that's all I got. But yeah, Stacia.
Hi, everyone. I have to say that we were, was really taken aback by the whole situation. Sports and live television, I think all of us can say we thought we were pretty resilient and it really would take a lot to knock us, off the block. And so one of the things that we decided to do as a company is bring the fleet back home, because it's all over the country, the mobile units are. So bring the fleet back home and take this time to do the maintenance, the upgrades, and then start training seminars. Next week, we're actually going to be starting training seminars for our engineers. And our chief engineers are going through and looking at what our folks want to get trained on. They're looking at the networking, the Dante, a lot of the different, IP, all of the different technologies that are out there that maybe some of our engineers never quite got enough time to master, and maybe take this time, instead of mastering it in the field, you master it at home with, a support group and that kind of thing. So that is kind of where we are right now. And then hopefully maybe we're hoping that can go into the crew, the cameras, TDs, A1s, and things like that. I mean, hopefully we're back to work far before then, but if it does continue, then what kind of training opportunities can we present to the local operating crews? So it's kind of where we are right now as far as navigating the situation.
How about you, Fred? I mean, you guys are pretty big in that space. What are your thoughts? And
it's funny. I had a client ask me today, can we shoot? He wants to do a shoot in the middle of May, and I'm like, we're in the same boat as everybody else. I'm not sure. I think, we have over, like 150 employees, and, different people have different perspectives on what they're comfortable with. So we want to be sensitive to that. Then we have different clients that are, some are more, raring to go than others because of the virus. And then obviously, certainly on the event side, I think we've crossed into a line here where the liability for companies, even if the government says it's okay to meet or whatever, if that eventually happens, that companies are now looking at liabilities. Like if I send 1,000 people to Vegas and 10 of them come away with COVID, is my company going to get sued? So we're in the meantime, we're doing the best we can on streaming, and we're trying to set up shoots with our fingers crossed for mid to late May. But I think like all of you, it's hard to make any guarantees, and I'm sure I'm preaching the choir here. It's hard to have any kind of business plan when we're not sure exactly where this thing is headed.
right.
So
Speaking of like with the clients, we know that the ad agency guys are, top of the line as far as direct interaction with the clients. I mean, Marty and Chris, what are your thoughts and feedbacks on the agency side with the clients? How are they getting ready to proceed? Is it, what timelines do you have, or any input that you guys have? Marty, your mic is not on.
But your left-hand signal is.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Nothing like.
There you go.
Is he on?
No, it's back off again.
It's back off.
There you go, Mark. You're on.
Sorry about that. I'm multitasking as always, driving and conferencing. But what I was saying is we've had our experience has been varied because we have various clients, from Bob Evans to Publishers Clearinghouse to Safelite Autoglass. And Bob Evans, for instance, has been doing what they need to maintain the carryout business. So we've been repurposing footage. I've been editing almost every week and trying to do everything in-house. Normally we would go to Mills James and have them do graphics, but we're foregoing motion graphics for the most part, or I'm doing light graphics just to keep the budgets down for our clients and help them get through the moment. And I think that they're definitely optimistic and they're hopeful, but I don't hear anything happening until probably June. We do have a couple national clients that are doing the same thing, repurposing footage in May. And we have a shoot scheduled for Publishers Clearinghouse with Luke Bryant in the middle of May. And that's full go right now. So we're optimistic overall. So I think a lot of it is a knee-jerk reaction. and I think that the more it happens, and it's slowly going to erode away, and confidence will come back.
And like I said, I want to put
And I agree. I think kind of as this thing goes along, we're working with a lot of clients on the strategy side and really trying to work with them on what is next and what can they do. I mean, obviously we're heavy in events as well. That's pretty much stalled through, we hope, June, but likely August or whatnot. That's the event side of thing. The video side, of course, working with all of you, stalled or pushed or trying to find alternatives or going more, Kelly can attest to this, with animation and things of that nature. And that was an awesome animation, by the way. But speaking to that, just finding those alternate ways, and a lot of companies are doing just that, just as Marty was speaking to, repurposing things. Yeah. Repurposing things. So for us, we're really trying to help on the strategy side and help them, continue marketing and continue marketing spend and think about, needing to do this during this time even more, even while we don't know a lot of stuff, because when things do become clear, we want to all make sure that we're ready and that our teams are ready and that we can, employ good strategy and have the people to back us up, because if we don't have the people to back us up, of course, that slows us down in timelines and all the things like that. So for us, we're working really on content side and on the consulting side to help them through this, and then to see what can we do, maybe June, to Marty's point, maybe August, hopefully, late mid-May. So from a surface point, just being heavy on that and just trying to give confidence to clients that you can do things during this time. And it doesn't just have, and it won't be taking advantage of the moment, or it won't be the things that clients are afraid of right now, which is like, I don't want to be seen as I'm using this to make money, or I don't want to be seen as I'm doing too much. So what is that balance and what is that fine line? And I think it's on us to help them through that, because none of us really know, but we have a lot of that expertise to kind of help them along, if that makes sense.
And one of the selling points that we've been promoting heavily with our clients is that the audience for watching media right now has never been greater in the free world. There's the largest audience you can imagine, and the idea to retract is counterintuitive, because you can reach 3 times as many as people now that are on their phones probably 6 to 8 hours a day. They're watching television almost 10 hours a day. So it's the greatest time to get your message out. There was a big article about Airbnb canceling all their advertising, when in fact they should have just kept this pedal on the gas. And I think that's another big selling point that we can all sort of emulate to our clients, is to say, this is the time to strike. It's like buying when the stock market's down, you kind of go for it, even though it takes, a little bit of fear to overcome. It's the best thing.
Well, we're hoping you agency guys can put that fear in and, try to, whittle it all the way down to the crews and, the people that rely on that. And, speaking of crews, this one goes out to Russ and Carrie, on the union side, on the, the big production side. I mean, what are your thoughts going forward? When do they think their timelines are getting ready to start back production, and what can you share from the union side?
Well, from the union side, I think that people are still trying to figure out, and Carrie can help me on this. I think that there's a lot of discussion with the MPPAA and folks like that are trying to figure out how they can get insured and safely get up and running. And I think that right now, at least in IATSE, where my Amy's a board member as well as 600, everybody's kind of gone to their corners right now to figure out what makes the most sense for them. And I know that the international brass is working on it with the input from us. But I think that right now that there's a give and take, and I think the IATSE at large is, and this is speculation, I can't speak definitively on this, but I think that they're kind of waiting to see if there's a set of guidelines that comes out that is industry wide, or if it's a project by project basis. But right now, as I understand it, all the unions and guilds are in communication. I think that there are productions that are talking about starting fairly soon, like June, but I don't think that there is yet, either from the producer side of things, an absolute set of guidelines, and how that works out contractually or with the interest of the various unions. I don't think that there's a common agreement yet. Carrie, you want to
Yeah,
add to that?
I think there's a lot of conversation about it, but you know, for something for standard practices and stuff to get into a union contract, that takes a long time, and it's not really what's going to happen. I think what you'll see first is, and what I've seen actively being promoted is a set of industry guidelines for best practices, and what will make that sort of codified is when the insurance companies start accepting them as best practices for an insurance standpoint. Because again, that drives a lot of the things. It's a lot of the larger feature productions are hesitant, from what I'm dealing with. Everybody wants to shoot, but it becomes hard to re-up your production if you are then going to have to shut right back down and not be able to open a secondary claim. So until there is some sort of best practices that follow the science that is also evolving, it's hard to see, at least from productions where you have a much longer production schedule and the exposure is longer for everybody, and you know, you are less likely on a shorter shoot to sort of have that sort of, we're halfway through now we have to shut down as you do in features. So until you have an insurable set of best practices, you know, that again follows science, it's hard to see, you know, features coming all the way back. But as far as shorter term shoots and, you know, what the unions will or will not go for, some of that feels a lot to me like things did right after Sarah Jones and safety. I mean, you can make all of the plans in the world and all of the OSHA guidelines and all of the bulletins in the world, but it really comes down to what your crew is going to let you do, or the level of self-protection that people are going to take for their own interest. And if, you know, being a producer, I would hope that producers would be smart enough that they would take a lot of this on themselves and listen to the people that work for them and with them, rather than having to wait until you have a business agent going like, dude, it's 2 medics in the contract. I mean, it should be something that one would hope we would be more proactive as an industry in doing.
And I also see a lot of conversations going on about an industry-wide standards protocol, but I don't see that necessarily being viable, because each production and each different city under different circumstances require different things. And I think that that's the common ground that everybody needs to have to find, so that it satisfies both what the production needs are, what the crew needs are, and it has to be, you know, it's going to take a lot more planning, and shooting's going to take a lot more time than it has in the past, at least for now.
Yeah, and content. I mean, we're in the world of content-driven decision-making. It's like saying, when is production going to be back? It's going to depend on what the production is. And, you know, I have a project that is imminent. March, which was insane. Down, and they have Ohio Film Incentive. They minute.
Sorry, Carrie,
for
we're
business,
losing you.
But it has crowd scenes with 250 extras in it. Oh, sorry. Okay, but it has crowd scenes. So it's like, we'd love to go back into production, but is that the project that's right to go back into production with?
I mean, for both of you, has there been any kind of like estimated timeline when you think they think we're going to get a standardized protocol for all of us to use in production? Is there, or is it still just nebulous? Like, we don't know, you know, for the working crew that are just waiting like 6 months, a year? I mean, what do you have any kind of standard guideline that someone's going to give us a timetable for?
Well, from a crew point of view, I know that everything's going to change. At least, I mean, at least for the time being, until there's a vaccine or we can go forward with the practices we've had in the past. Crew sizes will get smaller. The way that the set runs will change. There will be certain safety protocols that I think that will be universal. And then some protocols that are being proposed just simply won't work from a production to production standpoint. But I would expect that much smaller crews, at least on-set crews, anybody that deals with talent. And I think that for a feature film world, there'll be a much more rigging so that we're lighting, and from a lighting point of view, we're lighting and dressing environments to be shot within, so there's as minimal tweaking when first team's on set as possible. So for at least the next year, maybe longer, I think it's going to be a new world that's going to be navigated and tweaked as we go along. But I absolutely would expect that crew size reduces just for the sake of exposure. To what extent and to what that means, I think varies from production to production. But I think that's the truth for right now.
So well, that's sobering, but Jeff and Barry, you know, as director DP, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts about, you know, how does this change, you know, budget wise, your crew that you're thinking about using, insurance, and, you know, who's going to be paying for these extra protocols that we have to figure out budget wise, you know, for the gloves and masks and all that stuff? You know, do you guys have any thoughts on?
Great question. You know, I think that clients are going to have to come to the realization that, you know, it is a new world, and we're going to have a lot of, at the beginning when we do start up again, and I really don't think that's going to happen much before August, maybe July. I think clients are going to have to come to the realization that creative, and Marty, jump in on this, that creative needs to be written in a way that can be executed well with smaller crews and you know, talent at a distance, or however we go about this. But you know, you brought up insurance. What is it? I don't know if this is, you know, what happens if a key member contracts the virus? Do we get into an insurance claim? Is this force majeure? I mean, I don't know. I'm sure AICP is looking into this. Of course they are. But what I don't think is that we're going to have any sort of industry-wide, Carrie and Russ, maybe on features, eventually this will happen. But since, you know, commercial production is varied in size and budget, and let's face it, everybody with an iPhone and a Mac thinks that they're a DP and an editor. I don't know that there's going to be any sort of industry-wide agreement as to, okay, we have to have a medic on set. We have to have a dedicated person to wipe down all the gear. You know, I think that some positions are going to essentially almost disappear. Crafty for one, where I have a bit of an interest in. I think that's going to disappear as we know it. That's for sure.
Jeff, what do you think? You know,
I'm not sure how. Yeah, I don't know how we're even going to be able to do our jobs when we have so many restrictions and so many. I mean, look at our jobs. Everything we do is hands-on. Everything is touched by multiple people again and again and again throughout the day. Things get put back in cases. They get picked up, hauled around, hauled out again. I don't know quite how you would do that unless one person is only allowed to touch the camera, and the camera assistant would have to always be away from you. I'd have to mount my own lenses. I have to, you know, if it was a film shoot, I have to load my own mags, and then the AC would then be at a separate monitor 8 feet away or whatever it would be, pulling focus. It would be very different, and I don't know how it would work for the G&E world, because, you know, somebody puts up a light, somebody drops a scrim, somebody grabs a cord. You'd have to have each of those individual jobs completely isolated. So one person would only be touching the stingers. One person would only be touching the C-stands. I mean, I don't know how you possibly do it.
but I mean,
That's
Jeff,
impossible.
it can't happen.
No.
I think that, you know, I anticipate you're going to see a, you know, when people first show up on set, they're going to be given, well, before they show up, there'll be, of course, a questionnaire. There's going to be someone doing temperature scans on every person that's on set. I think it's unrealistic to think that, I mean, as you said, it can't be done, at least not the way we're doing it now, where, you know, you have to maintain 6 feet or whatever between crew. That's just as we're doing things now, that's just not in the world of reality.
Can I go ahead and interject here just to add a little bit more happiness to it, because here we are in gloom. But we actually have a show booked in about 3 weeks. There is a medic there's a doctor that will be there. This is not local. Obviously, Ohio's not open up for it yet. And so there's a doctor there. They have secured testing strips. So everyone on the crew will be tested for the coronavirus. So I think that will eliminate a lot of your concerns that you're having right now about who gets to touch what equipment. We've also discussed, you know, that everyone should be wearing a mask. We've talked about, you know, we've ordered some plexiglass to look at how to set up safe stations. So it's not a great scenario by any means, but I think that we have to approach it and, you know, come on, let's face it. We've all been in there. We get down and dirty. You know, this is a tough business, and we can't let this just set us back. We have to like keep moving through the obstacles. And so, you know, we're ordering plexiglass to see how that can be utilized to make safety stations for people. If we have clients that are already saying that they're going to provide doctors, we have clients that are already securing testing. I mean, that's huge. I mean, I don't know anybody that wouldn't want to be on that crew, because if they're all going to get tested, they're like, sign me up right now, you know? So I think that we need to look at you know, we're a resilient bunch. We're not just going to lay down and stop. And we can't, because our industry does not allow that. And if we do, then maybe it's time to retire. I still have some years left, so I can't do that yet. But I know that like sorry, go ahead.
Do you have any logistics on how that's working? I mean, like those tests, are they immediate?
I was told that they should take 15 minutes a person for the results.
And then, do you have any idea on what those are costing, just for fun?
We're not providing them. Our client is.
Yep.
So I think that that's where you guys talk about clients. We're going to see clients that are going to have to start investing and that kind of thing. We've also talked about, do we order headsets for the shows? And we talked to clients about, do you buy a bulk amount of headsets? And for those people on the crew that do not have their own headset, then, okay, you will be assigned a headset. It's yours. You know, we bill whomever, and then that is their headset. If you lose it, you forget it, then you buy one when you get on site. You know, obviously wiping down the mobile units before the crews arrive, wiping down the mobile units after they leave. It's going to set, you know, there's going to be more set time. There's going to be more strike time. But I think, again, we need to navigate through this to win, because that's what we do. We're all survivors. I know everybody on this panel right now, and I don't know any of us that aren't a little scrappy.
Yeah, I've been looking into both UV lighting kind of for disinfectants, as well as, like I said, today I started looking into more like ozone, kind of, because I've used that in the past to get rid of odors and things in the studio, but it does decontaminate surfaces. And so you want to think about, you know, mobile trucks or grip trucks. I mean, where it's like, how do you go into a 3-ton or a 5-ton truck and wipe, you know, all the rags down? You know, I think with ozone, I mean, it could penetrate some of those surfaces and you know, maybe knock down some of those contaminants that couldn't be, you know, kind of killed in a traditional kind of way. But it's definitely some of the space that we're looking into is how do you decontaminate stuff and folks, and then quite honestly at this point, how do you source all of the things that the governments are asking you to provide to be open, you know? So trying to get Clorox wipes right now, really difficult. Trying to get a can of Lysol, really difficult. You know, hand sanitizer, good luck. You know, I'm starting to, you know, kind of break through some of those kind of supply chains to actually get some of that stuff so we can have it available, you know, to create a protocol that's actually workable, once people, kind of show up.
Well, I know, Eric, you wanted to speak because
Yeah, I
you're
did.
one of the, I mean, you really are intimate when you have
Yeah,
to.
and not
put the
just
mic
makeup,
on.
but makeup, wardrobe. We're not only touching people's gear, like the camera, or I need an Apple box, I borrow a C-stand. We go right up into people's faces, interact, touch their bodies, and it's a huge concern. I mean, beyond face masks, our eyes are open. The actor cannot be covered, or you're going to redo makeup and hair every time somebody mics them or touches them. They're going to be exposed completely. So it's like wiping off every mic, every windscreen, every cable. I work out of a bag mainly. I do small crews. So my concern is often I'm already on productions, and I kind of feel them out now that I'm older. You kind of get it, you gauge how people talk to you, but you get on small sets and people aren't thinking about safety. They're thinking about getting the end of the day done. And so you have to advocate for yourself. That's a big thing. And younger guys are afraid to do it. I have up to 60 clients a year. So if I lose one that is horrible, I don't really want to work for them again, one. And I can't be afraid to say, hey, this isn't the way we can do this. You have to stop, think, and advocate for not only you, the person you're touching, the gear you're touching, because they're going to go home to all the people that they love and spread it to them. So there's a lot of alcohol, a lot of sanitizing. I mean, it's going to be a lot of time in between talent. I can't have 20 different mics on a set that's going to change out. Like in college sports, they'll do these car washes. And most of the time you just boom it. But you got 10 people a day or more, and they're like, you got to get them, go, 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 go. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, things are going to slow down, and you are going to have the necessity of going back to planning, prep, maybe personnel to handle a lot of these things, maybe not all at the same time. A lot of the film guidelines I see have been not so much about reducing the overall number of crew, but I always call them bubbles. I've also seen them called as pods, but like who is in your on-set bubble? And is rigging becomes massively important in that time, because you can have a lot of personnel like you're worried about the time it's going to take to wipe everything out. While if you're in the stage environment and you have the day before that, you can have a separate crew that's not going to be working with talent or around the people that are essential to the shoot itself, like the director, the DP, talent, things like that. They can bring everything in the day before, disinfect it. So by the time you're into the shoot, at least you're not dealing with like running back and forth to the truck. Can you, if you're going to be testing a limited number of people, can you do it in such a way that it's just the internal bubble and the people that are going to be dealing with the talent and things like that. And one of the bigger industry-wide things too is just sort of like, just like with safety, you now see most major productions have a safety coordinator who is the defined person who is there to monitor for safety, to make sure everybody's looking at it, to do it. Because you can have all the Purell and Clorox wipes in the world if they're sitting in the back of the van because nobody's bothering to take them out. And we've all seen lots of protective gear go unused simply because nobody's thinking to hand it out. The production has it, but unless somebody is assigned to follow these protocols we're going to set up, and unless we're going to ask for it and demand for keeping ourselves safe, it just isn't going to be as effective.
Yeah, I think gloves is one of the things that provides that. People put the gloves on and they think they have a level of security. I don't get that. I think hand washing is 10,000 times better than gloves, because as soon as you put that glove on, all of a sudden I'm good. But, I'm still rubbing my face, touching my eyes, touching whatever. And then immediately touch, as soon as you touch anything, that glove's contaminated. Where it's like you keep washing your hands, keep sanitizing, those kind of things. I think, I don't know, just personally that gives me a little more confidence. But
well, the thing with me is though, I'm getting into tapes, I'm getting into adhesives. You put on a pair of rubber gloves and forget it. I'm going to have to sanitize my hands and everything prior to the talent. I'm going to have a set of cut tape for that one talent. So if I have to go back and get another piece of tape, I'm not infecting the other tape for the other people. Then after I'm done, I have to re-sanitize my hand for the next person. And if I pull mics off anybody, I have to sanitize those mics, those windscreens, those mounts, whatever it is that was on the body of that person, my pack. I have neoprene belts that are going around waistbands. I mean, I work out of a bag. How many can I have of those where I can sanitize them properly? I mean, there's a lot to think about.
Yeah. I don't know why I keep seeing you guys like, I mean, this is fascinating for me. I mean, I have been around live action, obviously, for a long time, but as Eric, as you're talking, and the stylists and the wardrobe people, I really see you guys wearing those shields like a lot of the healthcare workers wear, you know, and I mean, we've got Central Scenic here making them and distributing them. And I really think that, you know, with those, it could make you a little more comfortable, a little more safe, but yeah.
The hands and the touching, though, won't go away for me.
Right. Right.
Working with gloves, and unless I can find something where I can, you know, get to the backing of a piece of tape. I know a lot of times there's situations where I have enough time with the talent. I can say, hey, look, you know, especially if somebody's uncomfortable, put it on your bra, put it on your chest, here, wipe this down, do this. But there's not for me. Again, I do a lot of, you know, very small crew. I do some commercial work where I have some more time, but a lot of times those are rushed. But that's small crew, man. It's
yeah.
Like they don't want to give you time. There's a cameraman, there's you. I jokingly call myself Audio Grippa Gaffaducer on those because you're doing everything. You're involved in every aspect of the crew.
Yeah.
And so beyond, I mean, I'm literally sometimes just helping out because we're trying to get through the day, setting stands, and then I'm going to my audio, and then I'm going to the talent, you know? So it's, for somebody like me that has a varied work, it's going to be rough. And then I have to clean my bag, clean my mixer. Everything in my bag will have to be pulled out. I mean, and I sometimes you get home at 11 and you got to get up at 4 for a live shot. And then there's stick mics. I mean, I got a ton of stuff I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
I want to chime in here. So I've been listening to you guys and it's been pretty incredible. So to me, what has to happen is an inner bubble. There has to be a safe zone on set. How do we get to a safe zone on set? Have you been tested? Have you signed an insurance release, Barry? So everybody on set, you have to have confidence that they've been cleared to where you can mic them, you can do makeup, you can, you know, tape out to the front of their face. How do we get there? So yeah. There has to be a protocol to where, so probably the best example I've been listening.
And then no one else comes in.
I work with AEP, American Electric Power. Once you walk into a grid zone of a power station, you have to sign a form. This is where you go if you get electrocuted. You have to wear a hard hat. You have to wear steel-toe boots. You have to do this. You have to do that. That might be where we are at on a set, where if you walk onto a set, you have to sign this form, and the insurance company says, yes, we will insure you if you sign this form.
Well, that kind of thing happens on features. I mean, you can't, right. For the unions will not allow, I mean, I have seen a lot of things like, oh, to work on a movie set, you're going to have to sign a waiver that, you know, if you get sick, you can't sue the producers. Well, those kind of things are illegal and unenforceable. But what you're talking about is a different thing, and how that's handled for insurance. The kind of insurance that you would get that would cover you from those kind of claims require you, just like they would a stunt or special effects or drone usage or something like that, right. In order to get the coverage, you have to go to them with your working operational plan. These are the protocols that we are doing to make us safe, which does sort of help Russ's point of every single production is different. Every single day is different. How do you do it? Well, you go to an insurer and an underwriter and you spell out every day, everything you're going to do, what you're planning to be, what the location is, who's your safety personnel that's going to be there. And I think we're already seeing this for health, things like, you know, that we've talked about, things like, okay, well, if I were preparing for that and saying, I'm going to do a limited shoot, it's going to have like 12 people in it. I'm going to have this inner bubble of people. Maybe I'll have testing. Here's how I'm going to sanitize the stuff back and forth. Here's how I keep, you know, people offset. I'm gonna have not only my regular set medic for injury and basic stuff, but I'm gonna have a quarantine coordinator that is going to be taking everybody's temperature before we come in. And if I'm a really proactive producer, I'm gonna have a telemed on call where everybody's gonna call 2 hours before they're supposed to show up to set. So if you're sick with a fever, I don't have to wait for the medic to take your temperature on set. You just won't come in, you know, and producers and features already have cast insurance that you could get for like your DP can be on it as well. So if you lose a day because your essential crew is down, you've mitigated your loss there. I think that's harder for you guys in commercials because it's such a specialized insurance to have. But again, you know, those are the kind of things you have. I think you're going to have to, in order to have that kind of, I think your workers' comp carriers are going to require you to do it if you think you're going to have any expectation of workers' comp coverage for this kind of illness.
And
You know,
Eric,
you're going to have to create those protocols on your own. And in order for them to, like, that's why the features, your start paperwork, which by the way, will now all be digital because there's not going to be any paper anymore. But, you know, that's why your start paperwork is this thick, because you have to acknowledge that you've read our protocols and will follow them. Netflix requires a safety video meeting that everyone must watch before walking onto set. These will become more prevalent.
And Eric, your situation is definitely different than what I'm used to. You're in a different situation. You're in a different environment all the time. It's a smaller crew, whereas in feature films, the sets are usually more contained. I think we'll go to less locations and probably more stages for the sake that they can contain it. So obviously you're in a much different situation than what I'm used to. But going to the bubble idea, I think that the way that a set will work on a feature, albeit independent or a larger feature, is just in that idea of a bubble, and because they want to protect the actors. So things are going to work in a different method than they have in the past, where one crew will go in and deal with the set, a crew that's been cleared as far as being contagious. Maybe it's sprayed, and then people will come in and light it with second team, and then they will be cleared. Vanities and wardrobe will work on the first team in their own little area, and then first team will be brought on, and it'll be like a closed set, as if you're doing a sex scene or something where it's only essential people on set, which is the operators, the dolly grip, the sound, the boom operator, and things like that. I think that and that's what I meant by it's going to slow the day down. Earlier when I said it's going to slow the day down, I think that this is a universal protocol that may go across the board regardless of what set you're on or what project you're on. But I do think that this whole lock and step kind of thing is going to become probably pretty regular for a little while. And as far as the smaller crew thing, I said, I should back up and say, I think on set, the crews are going to get smaller. For people who are listening that are like G&E people that might be concerned about that, I think rigging is going to get bigger because you can rig something in advance and have safety protocols without being on the clock of the actual shoot, so that everything is ready when the crew arrives, and then these other protocols take effect. But yeah, I think on a feature film set, that the bubble idea in the sense of how we treat the inner circle and the rings around it is definitely going to change.
Yeah.
See, the other
And I think, you know, certainly people can work around people that have COVID in a safe way. I mean, the medical community knows how to do it, but they're specially trained to do it. You know, we are also, I think it's hard to think about this, about how are we going to get back and what's overall going to change, but it is also something that is hopefully in the large span of things, something that is at least an initial compromise. I think you will get back to more and more normality once the science catches up with it. But that said, I think there are a lot of tools that we've resisted. I know in features, maybe budgetary, maybe, you know, the movies that are big enough to afford it don't want to take advantage of some of the technology that's available that will help us because of piracy, and the smaller movies can't afford it. But things like, you don't need to have a video village if you have a system where everybody can look at what they need to look at on their phone. You can maintain social distancing by doing that. There are tools that you can have for your first AC, Jeff, where they can, like you say, they have their own monitor and they're away. So that, yeah, there may be points in the day where you will have to not be able to have 6 feet of distance, but there'll be fewer, and those points of contact will be more carefully handled, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's like maybe you don't have to have the full mask on the whole time, but maybe every time you touch something, there's a Purell station. Every doorway has a Purell station. We may still have trailers and honey wagons, but by every doorway, there's a Purell station. Those are the kind of things that I think will be short-term implementations until we get more science that catches up. And some of that's just going to stay on board going forward.
And Sweden's starting work again, and they have a business. They have an industry model that they are following. So fortunately, like, they're starting production in a week or two under this protocol model. And so fortunately for us, we can learn from what works and what doesn't work, and we can adjust going forward. But I think there's a whole Nordic standard, Carrie.
Yeah, I posted it in the chat. I'll post it in Q&A as well, so that if anybody wants to see that.
You want to take questions, Scott? Do you want to, Dave, is that something that you guys want to do now, is just to see what the audience, if they have any?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a couple folks that have kind of chimed in here with some folks. The idea of liability has come up a couple of times. Does production get more expensive? John Dowdy was asking Carrie and Russ about are the unions working to kind of develop a CDC guideline or certifications of any type? Is there anything coming down from that space?
Yes, but I think so. Like I said earlier, I don't know when John got on. Hi, John. Right now, it seems like people are in their corners, like locals. Like 600 is a nationwide local. They've been very, very busy with very long board meetings about this. And I think what's happening right now is because the regions are so different, and this virus affects regions differently. And not only are the regions different just geographically, but politically, but also the type of shows that go to different areas are different. Atlanta's one thing. Ohio is another thing. And I think that what's happening is people are kind of talking about their concerns right now and sending it up to the international brass. But I know that, Matt Loeb, the president of IATSE at large, theatrics and stage employees and motion picture mechanics, has been working really closely with all the other guilds and unions. And so within IATSE itself, there's a lot of conversations going on. No one has come up with a solid plan that's going to blanket the entire thing. But at the same time, IATSE's taking what they learn and then, talking with the other guilds and unions at the same time. So things are happening, but there's not, like, as of right now, there's not some like formal guideline, something that's been released yet.
Yeah, and along the same lines, just in terms of talent issues, like obviously talent can't wear PPE. Has anybody heard anything with SAG making statements about safety for talent or anything in that space? I would imagine not, but yeah.
I can't speak on SAG, but I'm sure there's a lot of conversations happening about that. And travel, fear of travel.
So I had to shoot cancel because of talent, because they didn't want to do it, and it's they're the wild card right now. Is the union?
And aren't they?
Well, the other part is that we're a transient industry, right? So I mean, especially you guys, down on the Kentucky Cincinnati border. I mean, you're dealing with Kentucky's state laws, and you're dealing with Ohio's laws, and maybe Indiana's laws, and then and then obviously talent's so traveling to set. There's all of us that travel to set. So I guess you follow the laws of the state you're working in.
And then you've got, like, my friend today that I was talking to from South Carolina, who does a ton of business in Georgia. She's scared to death. I mean, she's scared to death, but that's her livelihood. She has to go back. And, you know, they're just like, woohoo, let's get this done and reopen. And
It'll be interesting for sure to see how Georgia handles it with
Yeah.
the production going on down there.
yeah,
But the show that I was in the middle of that stopped cold 30 days in was in Atlanta, and when we did our first round production meeting with all the department heads, and when people introduced themselves, they also introduced where they were born, because people were there literally from all around the world, and this is the world that Atlanta is.
yeah,
But my point is, it's bigger than just the state of Georgia. It's the industry at large. People come in, especially into Atlanta, New Orleans, now Puerto Rico, and they're coming from everywhere. But I also think that the industry is going to self-regulate. Just because Georgia says we're open for business, the studios and then the insurance companies aren't going to say, okay, let's hit it. They're going to walk their way in very slowly and very carefully, I believe.
And that happened after 9/11 as well. I mean, I had 3 shows in a row go down because talent wouldn't get on a plane to travel internationally. So, you know, it will adjust. People will get where their comfort level is, and people will toe in the water it. And, you know, like Russ said earlier, we have a couple productions that are internationally starting that'll go forward. And, you know, personally, I've said before, I think politicals are going to rear up faster than not because they're on hard timelines. So, and they can accommodate smaller shoots. So I think we'll start seeing people test the waters as soon as they are political, or as soon as they are safely able to, politically able to, and insurably able to.
So, I mean, one thing about the group of folks that's talking in this conversation is, you know, all of us are somewhat well-heeled, to put it nicely. You know, there's a lot of folks, you know, to Eric's point on these smaller crews, you know, that don't have as much experience, that don't have as much confidence, that will not stand up to a producer that's breathing down their neck. And you know, that's just something we're going to have to mentor some folks and try to get some best procedures, you know, across the industry, because there's so many folks. I mean, I've been on those small crews. I mean, they didn't give a shit less, you know, like they're getting their goddamn shot, whether you live, die, or you know, or do whatever. So, you know, like, how do you know, Eric, you know, what are your thoughts around that?
Carrie stating, you know, the political ads are going to come back. I mean, they're talk about a window to get your message in. It's short, and they're already reckless. And they already overschedule time. And now, depending on, you know, who the candidate is, you're talking about a national level candidate. And I mean, I'm sure at that level, they're going to test people coming in. But what if you show up and you have been exposed? You know, you're done for that shoot. And then on the smaller candidates, is the crew going to be, I've seen some crazy stuff on political ads, and safety was last in line for everything. And if you don't sit there and go, what are we doing? You know,
We also have to change our mindset a little bit here.
Yeah.
You know, we've always been, you don't show, you're not paid. There's never really been redundancy. So people show up sick, that mindset has to change. It has to change from the leaders. It has to change from all of us. And we need to create redundancies in the crews. If somebody shows up and is sick, they need to go. They can't stay. And they shouldn't be penalized for it. You know, we need to charge the client for them as they were there. For people who, you know, if they're sick and you're like, you know, I know you were booked for 3 days, you have to go home, you at least need to be paid half. I mean, again, it's not what everyone wants to hear, but again, we have to change the mindset. And I think we need redundancy. Carrie makes great points. I think that you're going to have to just really work ahead, be mindful. You've got to have your schedules worked ahead. I mean, you have to have your plan laid out A to Z, and you're going to have to do that. Also, she's very mindful that, you know, not everybody is going to feel the same way that, you know, that Joe in Oklahoma feels as, you know, Peter in Oregon. You know, we have to be mindful of how people navigate through this as well. And we can't criticize, you can't just, you have to be respectful, and you have to be supportive of where everyone stands, because everybody, you know, we might be together, but we're on different boats, and everybody's situation is different. You might have somebody over here that is, you know, working at Kroger and, you know, just trying to go paycheck to paycheck. You might have somebody over here who's on unemployment and, you know, they're being furloughed, but they're still somewhat being taken care of. I mean, every situation is different. So as we go through this process, we do have to navigate all the personalities. And a lot of times I think in our industry, we don't get to navigate personalities because you're either in or you're out. But this time we do have to have a voice, and we do have to have leadership, and we can't let people be taken advantage of. And we need to stand up. If Eric needs more time, Eric, you've got to get more time. And you have to hope that your competitors are doing the same thing, because if they're not, then they're setting themselves up for a potential lawsuit or infection and all of those things.
Just backing on your statement of redundancy with crew and everything, that's easy to say in a lot of shoots. But when somebody's calling you the night before for something that's happening, or even in the political realm, when you're getting closer to election time and they're trying to respond and they're calling you the night before, you know, and then they're making up shoots as they go, they're not going to be thinking about that. I'm not confident, because I've had people.
But it's your job to be mindful and tell them.
Right,
you know,
which
we
is
have
what
to
I'm
step
saying.
up.
But I'm just thinking of others in the industry who don't and will not, and it puts us all at risk. And of course, again, those clients aren't the ones I want as my long-term client anyway, if they're willing to risk those things. But
hey, I'm going to bring up something real quick too. A lot of unemployment people right now who are receiving unemployment are being given checks based on them having to work with another company. In other words, if you're a W-2 person versus a 1099 person, I'm lucky because back in '94, I incorporated a small S Corp, just my wife and I. We've been paying an unemployment now for 26 years. And we actually got approved for it and immediately got it. I had to lay myself off, had to lay my wife off, had to make a paper trail where I actually had to fire my wife basically, and also myself. But anyway, I could still get that money, whereas I know a lot of other people right now cannot touch it at all, especially people who are 1099s. So I'm not sure from a business standpoint if it would make more sense in the future for freelancers to form some kind of a corporate entity or some kind of thing where they actually can pay into unemployment. So if something like this happens again, it allow them to collect money instantly and not have to go through this whole thing where the states are trying to figure out if they should do it, when they're going to do it. Right now, Ohio is not going to do it until the middle of May. And I know from a union standpoint, whenever I work on union shows, commercials or whatever, I always have to work as a loan out, and it's always a pain in the ass dealing with accounting to get the right paperwork and so forth. But to me, it just works better. I think maybe in the long run, I pay more in taxes because I have to pay my own Social Security, my own, food and suit and everything. But it sets you up as an actual business entity and allows you to at least enjoy some of the money that you put in to unemployment, and it helped us seriously through this hard time. So I'm not sure if that's something that might want to be presented to freelancers in the future.
Yeah.
That's
with the caveat that in feature production, there are only very limited positions that can be paid through a loan out. The studios
But that should
are
change.
very about that. That's the exchange of it. But for people in commercial world, yeah, there's a lot of advantages to that incorporation and
Why
having
couldn't the feature world change over to let more people work as loan outs? Is that something that might
I can tell you that offline. There are actual taxation reasons for why they can't do that, but you're not going to win that battle. So,
yeah,
I mean that is a window that has been closing for a long time.
Jeff, that's
a shame because it puts people in a hard situation. More of a hardship than it would.
Those are really good points. I just want to, in general, for all you guys, I mean, what do you think currently for all the people that are watching? We're just, they're basically just wondering, well, how do we pivot? What's our next step? Do we just sit around and wait for months and months until production gets back? Is there something that you can do? I mean, do you think that's smart what Jeff is saying, having these people form an S Corp or something as a group of individuals? I mean, is there something moving forward to help everyone out that's just sitting there saying, we don't know when we're going to start. We don't know the protocols. It'll be months, if not maybe, to the next year, if anything starts to happen. I mean, what advice do you guys think we could give?
For me, what I'm hearing is insurance and writing to creative that we can execute under the circumstances that we have in our bubble. So our bubble is what we're figuring out right now. What's our bubble? Our bubble is, who do we let in on set? How big is the set? Is it 50 people? Are we shooting, a huge crowd? Are we not shooting a huge crowd? What's our bubble? What's our narrative? What's our story? And it goes from corporate to independent to feature films, and you guys have covered the board. Bottom line is, who's going to insure it? Who's going to underwrite it?
That's what a lot of the questions are too.
That's where it's going to. For
And
me,
what
I'm hearing is like, I'm going to do this. Can you cover my ass?
Yeah, and I
when
think
I'm going to blow something up on Fifth Avenue down in downtown New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, like one of the things that I'm learning just from being in my position at Pixel Park and knowing that our producers, Allison and our producers, will be working with you guys. It's like us, having those conversations with you guys in pre-production prior to the shoot. And these are smaller shoots. These are local, regional, smaller shoots, but it's just another conversation that needs to happen about that bubble. Like, what are some of the things that we can do for you guys in pre-production or write into our budgets, or hopefully, consider now to make it a safer environment for you. I mean, the whole thing is changing, but we're happy to do that. We want to have those conversations. We want to learn along with you because we work with all of you, and it's like, that's one thing that I'm learning from listening to you guys is how can we plan and make things a little better for you? And I would encourage you guys to just keep talking about this with as many people as you can. And I know Marty left, but Chris, you're still here, and the agencies, we have to take these guys into consideration, and we really can help do that, from the very beginning.
But I mean, does that affect budget-wise? I mean, does that mean that now we're really going to have to work with smaller crews because of the cost?
But I think, getting those conversations to happen earlier and bringing in more stakeholders into the pre-production process.
Yeah.
So we know some of those things going in before the budget's locked in, and everybody's like, I've only got this much money.
The last thing we want is surprises. I mean, we don't want surprises either. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, Kelly.
No, that's
Go ahead,
okay.
Kelly. And I think adding to all that everyone is saying, you're absolutely right in that it is on our side to kind of help move that forward, kind of helping that pre-planning, and to the point of having those creative ideas that take this into consideration at this stage before it kind of gets down, because you have to think, because usually you'll think idea and you'll think how are we going to get this and is it meeting clients' goals, but you don't think so down to who's working the crew and how many and all of those things, where even on our side, to your point, Kelly, we'll have to think of that. We'll have to think of medical needs. We'll have to think of to the point Stacey, like, are there things that cost things that will put barriers up in place to help things happen if you really want this to happen, client. And all of that pre-planning is necessary now, and even more so, but it also goes into budgets. If we didn't think about that, the budget's already locked in, and you can't get crafty once you already know a finite number, and you think about it, all of these 10 things afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
And you can also use that against your competitors when you're going after a bid. You could ask your competitors, your client, you can say, well, did my competitor put XYZ in there for protection? And if they didn't, then you're actually pointing that out to them as well. And then
exactly. And I'm seeing the front page of my budget changing too, the line items,
Right. We're going to put money in paramedic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we are, like the temperature taker, or, however that, I don't know what the protocols are going to be, but, somebody brought up Georgia. I mean, we have a shoot that's theoretically supposed to happen in Georgia next month. And I mean, in some ways it's like, I don't even know if it's going to happen, but if it does, we're already talking about like who needs to be on the crew, and frankly, who doesn't? Like Dave was saying, I mean, my guess is the budget will shrink a little bit on some level, but on some level it might go up because it's like, well, we need this person, and we need someone that, you know, on protocol, you know, is going to be the wiper downer, temperature taker, you know, the medic, for lack of a better word. And then, you know, what is at this point, it is a political, what is the candidate comfortable with? And, you know, and then to Wayne's point, we're figuring it out, and I think we'll get some solution, but who's going to insure it?
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, we're creating this bubble, like who actually really needs to be there? How far apart do we need to be? And it's almost like we have to, like, the pre-pro is like rehearsing the shoot, for like, you know, like you're going to stand here, you're going to stand here. I think but I think, you know, to the Sweden thing, I mean, we're probably all going to learn from each other.
Yeah.
I hope none of us on this call is the one that makes a mistake that we all have to learn from. But, you know, I'm sure, you know, there's going to be
make mistakes.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be news articles in 6 months of, you know, 10 crew members get something from somewhere in the world. And so, you know, but I do think we need to, you know, step forward and create that bubble to start and learn from each other.
But I can feel change in the industry over safety since Sarah Jones. And I think what a lot of people have said, and like I've seen some of the comments here too about the safety for Sarah and things, is like it's not just a matter of somebody went and said, oh, guess what? We put together all of these bulletins and we did all of these things. The culture of the industry changed. And that's what it's going to take for us to be safe here. This idea that you come to set no matter what as a point of pride is not good. And producers need to take, look, the IA people and the union people are going to have some more protections that our background actors and our production assistants will not have. And it will be up to those of us in department head and leadership positions to make it a safe space and to show by example that we care and this is your right to do it. One thing that's interesting that I found out from the Director's Guild that just happened in the contract they negotiated in February is for the first time ever, production managers and first ADs now have the right to shut down a set. Wow. If we are criminally liable for the activity that happens on the set, we need to have the right to shut it down if things are going badly. And I think that's a tool that doesn't have to be used very often, but it's a powerful piece of equipment to have in your bag. Yeah. And you just have to actively in your own work, even if it is just, as Eric says, a 2-person crew, you know, if people can come to you with unrealistic expectations, but at the same token, you're the 2 guys there, you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. So, you know, and they want to make their day or not, are they going to call you again or not? It's up to all of us to be informed, proactive, and working toward making the industry work so that we all can continue to work and we all can continue to have a career doing it. But, you know, we as an industry really need to step it up with things like, you know, redundancy in some of the crew positions so that you can have a PA go home if they need to go home. I'm of the opinion that even though a lot of producers I talk to think it'll be abused if it's contractual, I don't think the crew's going to abuse a sick day. I think we've all worked in this industry long enough to appreciate when we didn't have it.
Let me ask you this. If a crew member is sick, you know, by then, they've pretty much contaminated the rest of us.
Yeah, I want them to call me before they come to set. That's why I want
to tell or unless they're doing what Stacia said, and you know, you're testing as they walk in the door every day.
Oh, I don't even want them to get to set. I want them, if they're feeling bad, to have a number to call before they show up to set, or I can have a medic or a teledoctor say, hey, dude, I don't think so. Here, I'll tell you, the producer, you've called me and you're legit sick. That's your doctor.
Right. And that goes back to the mindset where, again, we've for so long, you know, I don't care if you're, you know, passing a kidney right now.
You wear it like a bad guard. You're going to show up and you're going to do your job.
That's the mindset. Yeah. And so, like Carrie said, let's push it to the point where they don't even show up on site. They call you. They, you know, and we know the difference between somebody hungover and somebody really sick, because we know the ones that might do the hungover.
And that's ego factor with us, Jeff, that we do.
Yeah.
Barry.
Yeah.
Marty. We show up on set.
Show
up.
Twice.
And Eric.
Yeah,
I'm
it's like,
calling Scott, Dave.
No, it's
Brad.
old school
very
mindset. You
true.
just walk.
It's like you don't call in sick. You show up on the set, and that's what has to change.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
that's,
mean, like one of my key phrases to everybody that wants to get in this business is you're waiting for somebody to get sick, move or die.
Yeah.
And that's your opportunity.
to die.
and I can honestly say, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and in the last 10 years, 5, 6 years, I can honestly say, I mean, we don't tolerate people coming into the office sick. It's like with technology and working from home, and this has all proved
I'm going to
it.
chime in.
It's like
different on a
set.
set.
I know.
It's different on a set. It's something that.
But you guys can get there. You can get there.
But I don't want to put Barry in a position. I feel like shit. I've got 102-degree temperature at 9 o'clock the night before my 6 a.m. call.
Yep. And there's 50 people on this crew, and Barry's directing.
Yes, you do.
But that goes back to redundancy.
Insurance to
Tell me
allow
what
for
you would
that.
do in that situation. So
But
I'm
that's
gonna
also
call you.
redundancy. You can't just have one Wayne anymore. I mean,
Where
you
do-
really have
So
to
this
think
goes to Scott.
forward.
Where does that redundancy
Yeah.
come in at? How do you build that redundancy?
It's really hard. I mean, especially
Well,
on a larger crew. I mean,
How
it's
about
like,
in a city with hardly any audio guys, and everybody's booked, and where's the redundancy going to happen? I mean, you got to bring somebody in from out of town at that point. We
What
have like
happens if you're in a
don't
car
show up
accident
to a
the night
spot.
before?
Well, I know,
Yeah,
but that's-
you might have to bring someone in from out of town.
right,
but sometimes to Eric's point, I mean, those jobs are happening. It's 10 p.m. and there's a 6 a.m. call, and
You call
and
at 3 in the
I'm on my
morning.
8th call to whatever audio guy, and I'm finally desperate enough to call Eric.
So
You call me. That's my job. I'll probably be sick too, but I'll have a Rolodex of people, and someone will be there by 6:15 at least. I mean, that is.
Listen,
that's-
I've been morning, night.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you crew the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of events that we crew, it has happened to me. I mean, my husband and kids are like, "Oh, mom got a phone call. We'll see her in a bit." You know, like they get it, they know it. The clients joke with me and say, "Hey, call in the red hotline." I'm like, "Okay, how do we fix it?" So we're already doing it, but maybe now, Carrie keeps saying planning and planning and planning. You actually build that redundancy into your crew. So, okay, we have Wayne booked on the crew, and then we have the Wayne wannabe that we've got that's going to be a grip that day, so that if something does happen to Wayne, then you know what, Wayne, sorry, your grip's going to take over for you.
and that's where you find the diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
right.
and you invite them
That's
on
the
the
one. That's the
text
DP is like, damn.
And there's a bunch of them
He
out
knows
there,
what he's
man.
There
doing.
are. There
Maybe-
are, but there are
maybe
far more than
there's
you think.
Maybe there needs to be like a like we have our little film commission, and Cincinnati has theirs, and Cleveland. I wonder if there's a way to aggregate, or maybe there's key points or key people that we could talk to. Like, so if all the audio guys are booked, like now we need to reach out to the tri-state area. Is there some resource that we could call and say, okay, now I got to bring this guy in from Pennsylvania or something because all the guys in Ohio are
Hey,
sick.
Dave, have you ever met Stacia Fritchie at Line Video?
Yes, I have.
So
I got your tri-state area.
All right, then we've got your contact
I can
information.
fly in people tomorrow if I need be. So
And,
we got it.
and I think that's maybe we have to share that with a lot of the people, even freelancers, because now they have, if they are sick, it might be helpful for them to find out, look, I'm not going to make it, but I know another grip that'll take my place. But, he's coming in from Pennsylvania because everybody else is booked. So maybe we do need that. Scott being a rental company, and some of the gear companies, maybe they should have some kind of, or somebody, a repository of numbers of people that we know.
I mean, we definitely we're Rolodex. I mean, people call us all the time for references, and I mean, we put people all over the place on stuff.
But I mean, something maybe online that's non-partisan, I'd say, but something that we can all access to say, hey, because we don't want to be another call station.
That's called a
at 4 in the
crewing
morning.
company, though. That information is a little bit. I mean, I get it, Dave, and that's and I understand the point of that. but there's also something to be said for holding that information in the years and
understand.
years and years that it's taken me to collect it.
Yes.
To just kind of hand it out with.
Well, you know,
Anybody
that,
ever wants
and
my
you know,
list,
you know the
sign up
people on the
for it.
list, you vet the people on the list.
Right.
You know,
right.
and I think I'm pretty good at actually matching people with jobs. You know, sometimes it's a personality thing. Who's going to work well with what producer? You know, those kind of things. I mean,
If something happens to me and I need to call somebody, I don't just leave it to the person that I'm telling the bad news to. I mean, I get on, I start texting people. I ask them if they're not available, do they know anybody? I mean, you know, we're in a world where we can get instant access to a lot of people quickly ourselves.
And most people do that, Eric. Most people do, but then when they do get to that point where they've tried the whole state and they're tapped out.
Yeah, we got to go further.
Well,
I mean,
and that's my point. I mean, I've been around long enough. I have more than just the guys in Columbus, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. And, you know, but it's going to be hard on the shoots I do to get anybody in a timely manner for any of it. So,
and that was all pre-COVID. I mean, you know, like we've been dealing with those issues for a while. Just to switch up gears for a second here to kind of take a look at some of the questions. There's a question about, you know, kind of commercial art and wardrobe. The whole idea of the habit that we have of buying things and then returning things.
Yeah.
In terms of you know, you know, just what are we doing with that stuff? You know, I guess, you know, are those germs an issue? And even just putting wardrobe on talent that they didn't bring themselves. I mean, you know, like it's you know, is that going to be a thing?
Yeah. That's a very good question.
All right. Well, good feedback. Moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's a really good question, and I don't know the answer to that.
I think you'll have retail stores too to take some leads from, because how are retail stores going to be handling returns and try-ons and all of those kind of things?
Yeah.
Going forward too. I think it fortunately, in a lot of the things that we do, we will have other industries to look to that will probably open up. You know, we're going to follow retail because we won't be able to buy stuff until the retail's open.
Right.
Well, and talent is often asked to bring multiple changes on their own and extras.
Yeah.
Is that a thing anymore? Do people bring their own clothes because it's no longer controlled?
I mean, you're not even at Kroger, you're not even allowed to bring your reuse bag. They're not allowed to touch it. You have to put the groceries in there yourself. So I don't know if any of you guys have experienced that, but the wardrobe thing is a great question. One of the things, I don't know, how long are we going here, Scott?
We can go until we, you know, tire of each other or just exhaust ourselves.
Yeah. One of the things that I keep thinking about on this call, and again, I'm just learning so much, and I'm glad I'm here. I think we should continue to do these like on a monthly basis, and I think we should start inviting people that are coming up. Like, let's invite Ed Wolf from Limited Brands. Let's invite like someone from LA. I'm talking to a lot of friends in LA right now at the same time that are animation studios. They're not slowing down. They're busier than ever. And then Wayne has friends out there that are production companies who are also struggling. So what are some of the things they're doing that we can learn from? I'd love to continue to do these, have these conversations with different people from different cities and industries.
Yeah, one of the things I've been wanting to put together past this is actually try to do like a weekly panel with different disciplines. So we can do a deeper dive on audio, or we can do a deeper dive on stylists or G&E or rigging, or kind of how those different departments are kind of going to work, and maybe work out some best practices among those conversations.
I think a good next would be a producers forum. I mean, insurance. I mean, insurance, that's where the money is. I mean, if you can't get your shoot insured, you're not going to do it. So if you can get somebody to underwrite it, so let's get some people that will underwrite projects, like, you know, the Ford agency out of Detroit. That's who I use. Who's willing to?
Front Row Media would probably be able to do a call like that. He's been my broker for a long, long time.
Let's get some brokers and say, okay, I'll insure you for $50,000, and here's my specs and
Yeah.
and you know, and if you
'Cause-
fuck up, then I'll cover your ass. So otherwise, you're good, and you just pay me your money, and we're good. So
Yeah.
that's the insurance is the key. From what I've heard tonight for the last hour and a half is insurance. We've got to create a bubble,
Mm-hmm.
and the only way you're going to create a bubble is to get a list of certified crew people that have been tested,
Right.
right? Tested.
Well-
That
goes to the question that Kristen asked.
that I can ask Eric to walk up to this talent.
What did Eric say?
I was just saying, Kristen, you were talking about, but there, you know, testing is going to be essential because there are going to be asymptomatic people coming up that don't even know they're
Absolutely.
So
I guess
like just taking temperatures is going to be useless.
Yeah.
But on the insurance front too, the insurance that we've been talking about is the insurance that protects the producer. You know, the other conversation that needs to be had is what is the workers' compensation piece of this that protects the workers? And what, you know, the producer may have liability for the cost of the shoot, and the producer always has some liability for following best practices, but we've talked about how we're going to have best practices. And if we're following it, you know, as a producer, you can throw your hands up. But how do crew people protect themselves from this kind of thing? And you know, having dealt with a lot of workers' comp claims and illness-based workers' comp claims, this is a particularly hard thing for us to cover, because in a lot of ways it's a type of illness that can be something as catastrophic as, say, Lyme disease, where you are sick for months and months and months and months and months and out of work for that. But with that kind of disease, you usually have an incident you can track to, like, this is the day I documented getting my tick bite on set. This is the kind of thing that for workers' compensation works more like influenza or just a basic illness, where it doesn't matter if I can say, look, everyone in my grip department was sick. This guy was down for 2 weeks with it. We know he got it on set. They almost never will cover that kind of claim. So how are our crew members going to be able to be protected from an illness, no matter that they get on our sets, despite our best efforts?
You know, I just saw a comment.
These are questions.
I saw a comment from Scott Smith, the utility player. I think one of the things, a good takeaway from this, from a lot of the crew guys watching, is now's a good time to start being a multi-user. I mean, a multitasking. You know, if you can grip, you can do some little bit of audio, you can do a little bit of camera, you can do a little bit of AC, and because you might be in that position where you're on a shoot and someone's sick, you're going to have to take over. So I think that is something to be said about to the guys, the crew guys, is maybe this is your chance to, you know, switch it up a little and learn another person's department.
You ready to step up? I've been in that situation where it's like, okay, you're the gaffer, and it's like DP.
Yeah, it's the Eric Vucelich grip a gap producer or whatever, blah 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 thing.
I mean, most of the crew. Yeah, a lot of the crew are gonna have to start to become more utilitarian like that. So I think, you know, Scott, I leave that up to you too. In a lot of the rental places, maybe there is some training or.
No, I think education is a big part of this.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's like, again, you know, there's going to be younger guys trying to break into this industry that, you know, they're already out there giving away, you know, a camera with their rate and you know, 1,000 other things and you know, trying to undercut this and that. And they're going to be the same guys that are going to be working with shadier production companies, taking these lower rate things that are compromising people's health, both on the client side and on the crew side. And we really just, you know, we need to maybe do a little shaming, you know, about best practices and making sure that people, you know, take these best practices seriously and represent the industry well.
Yeah. You want to take any more questions, Scott? Is there?
I think we're pretty well caught up on those stuff. You know, yeah, I think we're in a pretty good place in terms of questions. But I think we brought a lot of good stuff up. I mean, I think we've, you know, this is going to be a continuing dialogue as we learn what each state kind of puts together, as you know, as what the unions put together, what all the stakeholders kind of come together and give us to work with. And then what we're also willing to work with, you know, among one another and the protocols that we put together to keep ourselves safe and the people we work with safe and our families safe. So I think, you know, it's learning what those next things are that come down the line from from all those stakeholders, and then trying to move forward in that regulatory kind of space to make sure we're all cool. So,
All right.
you know, I think
Anyone else have anything else to say or
I
comment?
would like 30 seconds of room tone.
You'll never get it.
and that's why nobody likes audio, guys.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I'd like to say, I'd like to add just before we end on a positive note is that people are going to be very reactionary at the beginning. And I do think that we'll have to have some changes moving forward. But ultimately, people are going to start falling back into lackadaisical attitudes and aggressiveness, and it's going to be competitive again. And eventually, the only time that they do that is that when they're going to start spending more money. They're going to start putting money towards that because they need it faster, time will be compressed, and the only solution to that is to spend more money and to get more crew. And so I think it's going to be fine in the end. I really do. I think a year from now, it'll all be behind us. I think this is my considered opinion that this coronavirus isn't as deadly as we thought it was originally. I think the percentages are going to come out and saying that it's 0.5% of death rates comparatively. And I think it's going to be positive in the end. I think we should just keep hanging together and keep talking, but ultimately I think we should remain positive.
Yeah,
I agree. Thanks, Marty.
Scott, thanks for coordinating this. This was really nice.
Yeah.
Great seeing everyone.
Yeah, it was great seeing everybody for sure. So we will go ahead and we've recorded this. We're going to post this on our Facebook page and a couple other places. So there'll be links to
I did
this.
not give my consent for that, Scott. Did not have a signed release.
We put a little black thing over your square, Barry.
You didn't take my temperature first.
Whole meeting, Barry, without you objecting on something.
Hey, Barry, you didn't read the fine print.
Yeah.
I just like Wayne saying bubble.
So, but no, it's super cool seeing all you guys. I mean, it's great. What a powerhouse roundtable this was.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for participating and making this happen.
It's been fun. Thank you guys for including me.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you for including us. Thank you. Bye.
Stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.